Hey everybody, welcome to It's Real with Jordan and Demi. I'm Jordan Edwards alongside Demi Ramos. What's going on, Demi?
We have Matt Kearney today, and he might play a song.
He's threatened to play a song. And let's talk about before we bring him on, let's talk about your Candy Kid necklace here. Demi's ready for festival season.
I'm ready. It was one day of hot weather in New York, and I'm ready to go to
finally spring. So yes. So our guest today is someone who could absolutely take Jason Mraz in a fight. Let's bring him out. Everybody, Matt Kearney.
Hey.
What's going on?
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I gotta stay right here.
Yeah,
not
in
too
the middle.
Far this way. Just
you're in the middle.
I like it.
It's perfect. We love your bold colors. The blue is nice, very summery. The mustard yellow hat, a good choice. You're like the hat guy. You're like all kinds of hats.
Did I get a hat?
Yeah.
Demi used to wear a hat of the day. That used to be one of Demi's things. She wear a different hat, and she let it go. But you know, she just got a new shampoo. She's excited about, and she wants to show off those salon looks. You know, so
it looks beautiful, full, just a lot of life, healthy shine.
So really much healthy shine.
Yeah.
So Matt, you've got a new album coming out in about a month here.
That's what they tell me.
What's it like prepping for a new album when you can't tour and you can't go on the Today Show like you normally do? Mm-hmm. And you have to do these little cheap podcast interviews like you're doing now.
This is way more fun than the Today Show. It's been really fun and you know, being creative. We've shot a ton of videos. That's been one thing we've done. Is like back in high school, all I wanted to do was direct movies, and so I'm getting to live out my high school dreams with the music videos we've made. We made a video for every song. We poured a lot of our creative energy into doing creative stuff like that, Instagram live things, or there's just not the traditional radio and the normal way you would set up a record, but I don't mind it so far.
Well, you've released 2 singles from the album so far, Pontiac and Anywhere With You, and they're both doing well on streaming. So you still have fans out there waiting for that new album. I want to know, it's different, like as someone, you know, like you've obviously had songs on the radio, but now in the streaming era, when you release these singles, is it the same kind of anxiety you got when is radio going to play this? Is there an anxiety of, will this stream well?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more data now than maybe when I started, which was like, when I started, there was more gatekeepers. There was like, you had to like go in and like schmooze these like
suits,
like these like white old guys, and like try to pretend you're like into their thing over like a steak dinner. So I don't mind that that's no longer part of the gig, but yeah, it is a little different. The new one is kind of Spotify playlists. I think that's kind of become the new radio, honestly. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you can, so you are holding your breath. You're like, what did we get? Okay, we're in New Music Friday. Are we on like good music? Or
it's kind of like being like Casey Kasem's Top 40 or something.
Totally. It is the new radio. Like Spotify has become that in a lot of ways. And it's really frustrating at times, or Apple Music, all of them, you know, Amazon. But the most visible one's probably Spotify, just because they make all the numbers available, and you know, like, but yeah, it's nerve-wracking. That's more the pressure. That's the radio that you're shooting for, is getting on those playlists. But no, you can watch. You know, they give you an app where you can live see how many people are listening to your song.
Get out!
And like the day it releases, it like vibrates for every play. It's like zzz, 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 you know, and you're just like watching it go. And so yeah, it is. It's a different world, and in a lot of ways, it's a lot of fun because you have a lot of data to work with.
Speaking of Pontiac, which is, yeah, like Jordan said, streaming really well. Did you write that in 2020? That's one of my favorite tunes of yours.
Thank you. No, that's an older song, which is weird because it took on this whole. I'm still just my white balance, guys. I just look so Miami sunburned. I like it. I'm not usually this Irish. Maybe it's my blue shirt. If I show more skin, it will get less.
Well, we got
red.
some chest hair. We got some Matt Kearney.
Oh yeah,
chest
not
hair.
much. I don't got much. But no, I actually wrote Pontiac 2019, and it was one of the first songs I wrote for this new record, January Flower. And it's weird, the lyrics have so resonated with 2020. Even the line, there's like a line in the second verse that says, my mama worried about my marriage, but now I'm worried about my parents. And it's like, I just resonate. They're a little older, you know, like they're like, now I'm like, did you get your vaccine? Did you do this thing like that? I don't know. It's just that line really took on new meaning, and the whole song has taken on a lot of new meaning. I actually wrote it after I watched an episode of This Is Us. This Is Us.
Hang on. Time out. Have you had a song on This Is Us? Because it feels like you should have had a song on This Is Us.
I don't think I have had a song on This Is Us yet.
Mm-mm.
I've had like other iterations of This Is Us, like Parenthood was the original This Is Us, or like
well,
Friday
of course,
Night
you've been on
Lights.
Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy is like the
See,
OG
I feel
This
like
Is Us.
anyone with an acoustic guitar has to be on Grey's Anatomy at some point.
Yeah,
And
you really are bad if you're not on there once.
yeah,
you
it's
just
kind of
really
like
should give it up.
every actor in Hollywood has been on an episode of some Law and Order version, you know, and I feel
it's
like
like that.
every singer-songwriter from the last 20 years has had a song on Grey's Anatomy at some point.
It is like everyone who reads everyone's bio, it's like they've had songs on Grey's Anatomy and Vampire Diaries. For some reason, I see that a lot.
Diagnosis Murder? No.
No, not so much that. Yeah, that getting placements was a huge part of my kind of the beginning of my whole career and getting started.
I was going to say, it's kind of when I was preparing for this, you know, I look up not just a guest's music and bio, but also other interviews they've done, and everything that comes up when there's a Matt Kearney interview is, oh, even if you don't know this guy's name, you know his music, you know his voice. Is that an insult or a compliment?
Maybe a little of both.
It's kind of an underhanded compliment, right?
No. I mean, depends on who you are. Like, yeah, it's a compliment to the kid whose last job was Starbucks, because that was my last job. So I think every day you get to do any sort of job in this business and you get to write songs. Yeah, it is a compliment to that. It is funny when you're known for a song. I should have picked a much better name. Matt Kearney's like a tough branding. I should have been like the Red Limo or something, you know.
Red Limo.
Really, you'd know that name. I needed a name. But they it is funny. I was on an airplane once with this lady, and I was like, she's like, it's always the question, like, what do you do for a living? And you're like, well, I'm a songwriter, I'm a musician. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, what's your name? Matt Kearney was, what's your band? Well, I go by Matt Kearney. Well, like, what have I heard of you? I'm like, no, like, you know, because people don't recognize your name. A lot of people don't understand, like, then you're a guy in your dorm trying to make it. And so that whole plane ride hour, she's like, so wait, are you on the radio? I'm like, yeah, I've had songs on the radio. She just can't figure it out. And finally we're getting up to leave the plane, and like my song comes on, the walkout music. I'm like, listen, hear that song? She's like, yeah. She's like, that's me. That's what I do.
way.
She's like, oh,
That's such a baller move.
She's like, yeah. I was like the most name droppy. And then all of a sudden she was like a fan. You know, before that she's like, I hope you make it. Like, you're gonna get your break. I'm like, yeah.
Did you just not hear my song being played over I made it?
But no, the funny part is until that point, it was like, I hope you make it, because I never heard of you. People think if they haven't heard of you, you haven't made it, which is funny. It's a funny concept that we think.
Right.
But then once she heard the song in the airplane, then she was like, can I get your picture? Oh my gosh.
Oh,
or
no.
Autograph. Like,
oh no.
I'm like, you didn't know who I was 5 minutes ago, but now because you like the context. Anyways. So I'm used to that, and I actually don't mind it, because it's I don't know, getting early on, maybe I wanted more of that attention, but the longer I've done this, the more I just enjoy people that know my music are fans, and that's like been it's mellow. It's just like, I don't get stopped by people that don't know who I am. I don't know.
Well, you grew up in Oregon.
Yes.
Me and Jordan were in New York. What was that like? And how did it shape you? Was there a music scene? I know you went to Nashville later on to kind of blast it up, but what was it like growing up in Oregon? What was that?
It's cool.
Eat some squatches out in the wilderness.
Yeah, what do you guys do over there?
Yeah, we do a lot of Sasquatches.
A lot of them. They're just everywhere.
Yeah, this is my best friend was a Sasquatch.
I went to high school with several
Yeah,
Sasquatch.
like literally, I did almost. Um, you know, I'm actually a sixth generation Oregonian on my mother's side, so that's like Demi. You might be too young, but did you play Oregon Trail as a kid in school? Was that a thing? The game? Remember Oregon Trail?
What was the
Anyways,
game?
it's
No,
yeah,
yeah,
it's
Demi's too
before you.
young.
Yeah, but
Demi's too
Oregon
young.
Trail was a thing. It was this game you played in typing class or like computer
How do
class.
you play it?
It's not a game. It's like history lesson of people coming over in the covered wagon. This is a dumb story.
It's
I
a
don't know why I'm telling
simulation
you.
of you going across the Oregon
Yes.
Trail.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like an educational game
This
that
is like one of those deals where teaching Gen Z how to use a tape player situation right now.
yes. Yeah, right. So yes, my family is deep Oregon. They were like covered wagon. They came over in the covered wagon. There's a lot of like backpacking. Eugene, Oregon is like a chill kind of hippie community. So there was a lot of musicians.
College town.
Yeah, college town, go Ducks. Art was really like uh, considered a cool thing. So if you were into arts and you were into creative things, that was actually really popular at my high school and was embraced in our community. So I'm really thankful for that because it was not like your typical. If you were in the art department, that was like kind of cool, or it was like just a very celebrated, diverse community.
This sounds really strange, Matt, but I also have a connection to pioneer trails.
Okay.
I'm from Kansas City originally, and the town I'm from, Raytown, the suburb, it was built on the Santa Fe Trail, and 63rd Street, which is the main drag through town, was literally a piece of the Santa Fe Trail that became the main
The
street.
Oregon Trail.
And I have a anvil tattoo on my arm,
Wow.
which you can
There you
see
go.
right there,
I can see
because
it.
Raytown was built around the blacksmith shop that supplied wagons on the Santa Fe Trail. And so I think it's really cool to get to talk to someone who has like a connection to a trail.
Our peoples would have traveled along the trail
Right.
together, bro.
Right. And if you remember
ago.
generations ago, maybe they crossed. I think the Oregon and Santa Fe, maybe they crossed. They would, they would you'd like wave to them at the intersection. You know, you're going to Oregon, I'm going to Santa Fe. Yeah.
He's like, do you need a tire iron? Because I got you one right here. Like,
right.
Yeah.
A yoke. Do you need
a
yoke prepared?
Yes, there was a lot of I mean, maybe our people we actually have a journal from that, my family. That
like a Ken Burns style.
Totally. And it was like one brother traded his sister for a horse to like some Native American people, and like they had to go back and get her, and she
like it was collateral, like a pawn shop kind of thing.
He just was like, I don't like my sister. This horse is cooler. I'm gonna like trade you. And like he got whipped, and it's all in this. I'm like, wow, this is wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you remember in the Oregon Trail game, you start out in Independence, Missouri, is where you get your supplies. Yep. And that is right by the section of Kansas City where I grew up. So yeah, this concludes the American history portion of the show today.
Demi, did you take notes? Did you get all that?
Yeah, there'll be a quiz.
I just remember the whipping part. That's it.
I have a question. I have a question. Even though this is Matt's show, Matt, Demi went to LaGuardia High School, the Fame High School, Performing Arts High School.
Oh, cool.
And I always wondered, Demi, did you actually have history classes at LaGuardia?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. The coolest thing about that school was you had 4 classes of academics and then 4 classes of arts, and they were equally weighed in your GPA. So you could like totally fail math, but if you passed all of your music classes, you're still good. You could probably fail math and English and still graduate if you just pass all your music classes. So yeah.
No, Matt, I read an interview. You didn't grow up with music. You didn't have music in the household. Your parents weren't musicians. No. So you
I was a soccer player actually, which is
you kind of have a soccer player vibe. I don't know. I think soccer players are traditionally like attractive. So I think that's, it's a compliment.
I mean, I'll show you my abs. No, they're not there. Yeah. Thank you. Actually, thank you. But No, I played soccer, no music. My family was creative, but no music. I actually didn't start writing music till I got to college.
No
And
way.
my
That's pretty
roommate
late.
had, yeah, I was like, my roommate had a guitar and I knew like two chords. And honestly, I was kind of the opposite of you, Demi. I was like so limited in my ability to play music and like cover songs that I just ended up starting to write songs because it was easier than learning what like John Mayer was doing or whatever. I was just like,
Learning
I'm just
covers.
gonna like, I'll just write a couple chords and say some stuff that I find interesting. And my friends started resonating with it, and that really what started the journey. Was like it was pretty late in my life. I was always an English major, so I always could write and like loved words, and the guitar kind of made it all fit. And I was kind of learning how to sing and.
Was your
Just like
roommate with the guitar? Did he end up being jealous that you became the music star and he did not?
he never played it, so he did.
Oh,
He had no
it was
commitment
one of
there.
those like prop guitars for girls
Yeah.
to be impressed by. I know,
Like
I know the move.
he in theory wanted to be able to play it, but he just didn't or couldn't, I think. And
Yeah.
I couldn't either, but there was this racquetball court on campus and I would go and take it and just play two chords and just make up songs and be like emotional out there. Like I just speaking to myself, and I was like, this is so fun. This is what I want to do. And it really just was not I didn't want to pursue it as a career or job or anything. It was just literally all I wanted to do was write songs. It just was my passion, really.
What did your first song sound like?
My first song, I wrote like an instrumental one, and then there was one that was like kind of gospel, like actually in the first one.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
These chords are like actually really in now. It was like memorial stones in the middle of the Jordan, Lord, you brought me along, raining down from the heavens, you know that I'm strong. I can't remember this part.
I like what I'm hearing so far. It sounds decent.
But then I couldn't really sing, so I would like kind of do like rap verses because I was very, so then I could be like, you know, Popdust and we sat there on the night and my skin looks really red from the times I was outside, and you know I would just like make stuff up. And so like that was really how I started, was more like just kind of spoken word free form, because you didn't have to really be a good singer, and then you could write kind of a simple chorus.
Early in your career, you opened for John Mayer on one of his tours.
I did.
What was that like? And do you have any juicy John Mayer stories?
Oh, do I?
Mm.
No,
Because that was in the middle of John Mayer's, let's say, romantic peak. Let's call it that.
He was dating like little white spots. He was dating Jessica Simpson at the time, actually. No, we were on the Continuum tour, and it was awesome. It was like I didn't realize it till maybe later in life what a special moment that was. I'd done a couple tours. I did a tour with him and Sheryl Crow originally when they co-headlined, and it was right after. And then he put out Continuum, and then he had us come out and open that tour. And he was just really gracious. I remember he like hand wrote me a note before we got there and was like, "Thanks for being here." And he was cool. He hung around. I mean, I think he had just kind of started smoking weed a little bit. That was like when he did famous interviews. So he would have really interesting conversations. I'm like, you're pretty high, I bet. You're definitely high right now. But he's just a genius. You could tell. One time he told me the story about how he was into gambling at the time. We'd go to Vegas and he could count cards through like sound, or he'd be like, he was explaining
like
something.
the sound of the cards, like
No, like he was pretty high, and he had just played a show, so he's on adrenaline too. He's like, so like, you know, I go to Vegas and I'm like, he's like, you know, the queen comes and then I think that's like a D, like a D is like woo, and then the jack comes and that's like woo, and then so I add those up and then I do this whole thing, and he's like counting cards through like his perfect pitch. I'm like, bro, you lost me. I don't understand. I'm the guy that can only play two chords and write songs. So,
wow.
But no, he's a super cool guy. He's always been really gracious. I haven't ran into him in a few years, but whenever I'd see him, he's always like super nice. What do you think?
Yeah.
You what?
Nice. Now, what's your relationship at this point with Nothing Left to Lose? I mean, it's kind of your meal ticket song, but
Yeah, I love that
it's
song.
also something you get requests all the time. Like, how do you feel about the song now?
I love that song. It's like one of my favorite songs. It was like, it's like your first love in high school, maybe. I don't know. Like that maybe you guys went away to college and you didn't really break up, but you did, I don't know. It's just like it has a special place. It was a special season in my life. Weirdly though, that song, because what it's about like kind of, I wrote it about jumping in a car and driving across the country to Nashville to pursue music. I met this guy who said, hey, if you help me drive across the country, we'll produce some of your songs. So I was a junior in college at Chico State in California playing soccer. We drove across the country. I was supposed to be there for a month, and I was like, this is it. I'm dropping out of school. I'm going to pursue music. So then that song's about that. So that kind of like going for it, expansive, like I'm going to take on something, just still rings true at different seasons of your life. It doesn't matter where you are. That's still like a thing we're all doing all the time. So it hasn't really lost its power. It's not, I don't know. I still really love playing it, which is weird. You would think I'd hate it by now. Played it 1,000 times.
That's good. That's one thing I'm always interested in is, a singer's most popular song, the relationship with it. I remember you remember Mark Cohn Walking in Memphis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I
love that
interviewed
song.
him several years ago, and he was like, "It was my best song. I really don't like it." And I was like, "Really, really, Mark Cohn?"
Yeah, I mean, you gotta like dance with the girl that brought you, right?
Exactly.
That's what I always say. Like,
Wow, I love that.
like you can't I don't know. It always made me feel weird. Like Radiohead wouldn't play their Creep song or something,
Mhm.
because I was the kid that was like jumping off my couch, headbanging to that song. I was like, I love that song. I'd love to go to a show and see
Buy
you
the
play
tickets
that.
for that song.
Yeah.
You what now?
You buy the tickets for that song.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You want to go hear it, but yeah, that one.
let's talk about Anywhere with You, okay? Because the video was so cool. I really want to get into the video. We saw you backstage. We got like the backstage footage. This is so cool. And you're filming the video while in this see-through van. And I want to know, what was that like? Whose idea was that?
It was, well,
A see-through van sounds dirty, by the way. You got the see-through van. You want to come through?
Yeah,
See-through?
I got a see-through van. It was yeah, my friend had that truck. Actually, it's a mobile photo studio, and he like Tetrol Co. You should check him out. Tech. He's a super talented photographer. Shot my wedding. He's really talented. He just had this mobile studio, and I was like, this would be crazy if we were like driving around town, like shooting stuff. And it's something about this year and being in a box, but wanting to go places, and then writing that as a love letter to fans of being like, hey, wait till we can go back and be in have shows together. Just felt like the right thing. And it was wild though, because it's so dangerous. We were like going down the highway with this like glass box, and like I'm singing, and the driver's taking turns, and we're like flying off the side. And we pulled into downtown Nashville, and it was like people were losing their mind, because we're like singing and dancing in this glass van, and people were just like, what are you, they're like, they thought we were U2 or something. It was wild.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought you sang U2. That's like the most polarizing band to me. Everyone has like a hot take on U2, whether they're,
Yeah. I mean, I am exceptionally red, guys. I like this. It looks like I just was like,
I said workout.
Let's see. We'll white balance me. Nope. Oh, it was yellow for a second. Guys, I need the professional gear.
I appreciate the effort. You need I have a $10 Amazon ring light. You said this is your wife's ring light. Is she have like a fancy ring light? Is this like a?
No, it's not. She's an actor and she auditions. So I got
The
this
self tapes.
when we go on the road to, like, we went to Arizona, hung out in the desert, and I was like, she needs something to tape, and I have all this like lighting. I'm like the tech guy. I love setting it up for her. Like I have all these lighting things, and I've got this, and yeah, I guess I need to send it back. You know, I look good, just really red. It's fine. I don't mind. She's very
Speaking of your
Irish today.
wife, you have a daughter, you're
Yeah.
married. Are those the people that ground you and have grounded you throughout your career these past years?
No, not at all. They just, I come home and they praise me. No, that's a joke.
They
They
make
definitely,
He pays his wife to praise
yeah.
him and to
I
shower
actually
him with
make them pay.
compliments.
They have to pay a cover charge to when I enter the house. Like,
Yeah.
no, yeah, they totally are like my North Star. I have two daughters. We just had a new one actually, Violet. So Olive and Violet. And yeah, they're just like, they changed the whole thing. You know, they changed a little bit of my creative hours. I used to stay up super late. That's a little harder when um, musicians are funny. I hadn't gotten up before 10 a.m. ever. Like, there's no reason to get up before 10 a.m.
No, there's
No,
not. That's the
no,
reason you became a musician and you're
exactly.
not selling insurance in a cubicle is so you don't
Yes.
have to get up before 10 a.m.
Like 10, like what? And then this child is like 6 a.m., bro. That's when I do it. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't do that. What are we doing? But no, my wife is amazing. She's like not a fan at all, actually. Like, I remember we went on our first date. She's a fan. She's a fan of me. She likes my music. But I remember when we were dating, we'd been dating like a month. And she was like, hey, I like heard one of your songs. It's pretty good, man. You're pretty good. I was like, cool. Like a month into it. You know,
Right.
she just is not easily impressed. If she does like a song, it means it's usually probably really good. But if I went to her tomorrow, I was like, I'm gonna be a janitor. I'm quitting music. She'd be like, okay, you know, like she just isn't in it for that, and I love it. That's like I was drawn to in the beginning.
You have kind of we had John Foreman from Switchfoot on the show a couple
I
months
love John.
ago, and we talked about the sort of semi-Christian music reputation that he has, and that
Semi-Christian?
he says something to the effect of, you know, I'm a Christian person, but I
Yeah,
don't make Christian music. You just get lumped into it. You have had stuff chart on the Christian charts, both singles and albums. You had songs that were kind of remotely spiritual, but I
yeah.
wouldn't call you a Christian artist. How do you feel about the whole, you know, that whole thing of being swept up into the contemporary Christian music thing?
I guess I'm the opposite. I am not a Christian, but I make Christian music. No, I'm joking. That would be awful. Yeah, like my faith, I just, it's for me when I was at Chico State and I kind of was a freshman in college, that's when my spirituality really came to life. And this like idea of a loving, living, breathing God that's like wants relationship with you. And it seemed very real. And just the kind of path my life has been on and the miraculous moments that it just is proven to be true over and over and over again. Yeah, that's a part of my music and I love writing about it. But I don't know. I think it's more interesting to talk about that in the way that I grew up in Eugene, Oregon. You know, if you're going to talk about what you believe and how you believe, it was like in some coffee shop with a weird belly dancing hippie lady before you. And then some, you know, that's the context of where I love to talk about my faith and who I love to talk about it with. So, but yeah, my music is a direct relation to what I believe in, that hope. And I think you see it a lot in my music. There's kind of this undercurrent of hope and like, acknowledging pain, but then having this like belief that there's like a plan, there's something working its way out and of good in that. And I think that would be a general theme you would see in my music a lot.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a positivity that runs through your music. But you know, it's funny you mentioned you were an English major. When you're writing songs, for people who are writing majors who have like a journalism or writing background, there's a tendency to kind of overwrite. When you're writing a song, putting in imagery, do you find yourself kind of having to pull it back a little bit in terms of squeezing in too many words, or, you know, lyrically,
Yeah.
how easy is it to you for you to write a song versus the music part of it?
You know, they're generally pretty linked. The good songs happen real like at the same time. There's no like lyrics, music for me. Sometimes I have a title, but I've tried to get simpler over I used to be much more like imagery, longer verses. It's the more recently, this new record, it was like kind of, how do you make something distilled down and simple that like still hits really hard? That's more challenging than writing just kind of esoteric, weird images. That's kind of easy for me to just paint pictures and leave it up to the audience to figure it out. Sometimes that's the right move, but sometimes being like to the point, saying something simple and profound is the hardest part. And that's kind of been the goal lately.
Yeah. That was a really like deep answer, and I don't know how to react to it.
Wait, what do you mean?
Thinking about that.
Well, I mean, you can say like, you say it again.
Which way are we going with the new album? Are we going?
It's definitely more like it's succinct. Like the hardest songs in the world are the ones that are simple and profound. Like, I fell into a burning ring of fire, felt it burn, 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 and the flames went higher. That just like, and it burned, like simple, but we all know what it means, but you've never heard it before. John Mayer, Stop This Train, I Want to Get Off, like, just simple, but it's just like, we're like, yeah, we've all felt that. That's easier than like, like shadows of velvet illuminating moons. I felt your orb and touched your, that can sound poetic, but it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So some people feel that that's more interesting, and some artists do that really well. Bon Iver is like the king of that, just saying stuff you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And like, but you feel it so deep. So there, there's definitely different styles, and I tend to, this new one, I'll play a little bit of, are we doing it?
Yeah, do for it. Go for it.
This is really simple. Used to worry about nothing, said I'd never grow up, and I fell in love, and it was enough until it wasn't. I used to dream that we could make it. Now I'm working on a paycheck, and the voice in the line says I'm doing fine. Can you tell that I'm faking? And we watch our friends play the same old game, and we all pretend that we're okay. We wanna say, take me back to the time when getting old was turning 25. The single CD that you burned me, we played it back. The way we laughed, windows down, rolling around the south side of town. On your flip phone, you told your dad no, you wouldn't crash. Maybe we went too fast. In your Pontiac, my mama worried about my marriage, but now I'm worried about my parents. You can try hard to run from what runs in your blood, but you still gotta share it. And we watch our friends play the same old game, and we all pretend that we're okay. When we wanna say, take me back to the time when getting old was turning 25. The single CD that you burned me, we played it back. The way we laughed, windows down, rolling around the south side of town. On your flip phone, you told your dad no, you wouldn't crash. Maybe we went too fast. In your Pontiac. I used to worry about real life until I fell into your eyes. I fell in love, and it was enough to make me realize. Take me back to the time when getting old was turning 25. The single CD that you burned me, we played it back. The way we laughed, windows down, rolling around the south side of town. on your flip phone. You told your dad no, you wouldn't crash. Maybe we went too fast. In your Pontiac.
So
There you
good.
go.
Matt Kearney, Pontiac, off the
I
new
hope
album.
I'm sing along.
How does it feel to play that song for an audience, even if it is an online audience? That's the weird thing about this whole situation is you don't get to beta test these songs for live people.
Yeah. I mean, usually I'm not. I've never been someone that's like trying new songs out before I record them. Usually I record them, and then I put them out into the world. So it's not that different. If anything, you get a little more like this. I would have maybe not done something like this as much. So you get little reps in the process of doing like Instagram live things, or like, yeah, playing for you guys. Or I don't know if I don't know if I've ever played that song all the way through. Live, actually. Maybe this is my debut live performance.
We love it. Debut live performance.
I was trying to remember the lyrics, but it's still new. I'm like kind of know how to play it, but yeah, that was it. That was my first
Love
live
the flip
performance.
phone line.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, what happened was I don't know if I ever finished the story, but This Is Us. I've been in a season of writing. There was this artist named Rez from this band called Time Flies. They were like electronic band, and he was supposed to write with me the next day. And in Nashville, sometimes you do these like co-writing sessions where every once in a while you'll set up just meetings and like, hey, come over to my house at 11. We'll write till 4 and see what happens.
But not before 10 a.m.
No, not 10 a.m. It's usually like 11. In Nashville's a little 11 to 4 or 5. LA's like 12 to 9. They're a little later cats. I think they like to avoid the traffic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was watching This Is Us, and I was sitting in bed, and there's like this girl, they adopt this girl, and her nickname in high school is Pontiac because they made fun of her because she slept in her car because she was homeless. So she's telling that story, and I was like, Pontiac, that's a cool word. I was like, I don't know why I like that. Just wrote it on my phone. And the next day he showed up, Rez, and I'm like, hey man, I was not inspired. I had nothing. I was like, dude, I don't really want to write. I don't know you. Like, hey, that's sometimes awkward. You're like a first date, but you're trying to write a song. It's like, hey, I'm Matt. Cool. What kind of music do you like? And I was like, I just have this title called Pontiac. I don't even know what that means or what we would write it about. And I started Googling, and I was like, oh, well, Pontiac went out of business in like 2015. I was like, oh, interesting. This car company we all know the name of, but no longer exists. I was like, oh, that's kind of like a metaphor for life and moving fast and this era of these other things that burn CDs. I used to have a flip phone. I was like, I just started like saying those kind of things like, yeah, like Pontiac. But then I was like, yeah, life went too fast. Oh, fast in your car, like a double meaning, fast in your Pontiac. I was like, this is dope. And we just wrote this whole song in like, man, we probably wrote it in an hour. It was like one of those that just kind of happens really easily.
Well, it's a really good song, and I can see that it's one of those songs that would translate well to YouTube covers and different versions and, that kind of thing, which is really cool.
Like, I got to get my TikTok game going stronger because that kind of thing.
Get it together.
I know.
Are you a social media person? Or do you enjoy it? Or do you grudgingly do it?
I am not good at forming that kind of. I enjoy it when I do, but I definitely the consistency of being successful at it to have it be a part of what you do every day. That can be challenging at times because I don't care. There's days I'm like, I really don't want to do this, but I'm like, but you're on a mountain and it's beautiful. You should post this. I'm like, I just don't want to. And like, that's good content. You should always post that stuff. So
yeah, post that damn mountain. That sunset.
Yeah, I know. I just don't. It's hard for me sometimes. So I also don't have like the Instagram boyfriend. Like you need that if you're gonna have a solid influencer preference. You need the solid boyfriend that knows like the angle to take of you.
And your kids are too young to help you with this too.
Yeah, she's like always. It's always from below. It's always this weird angle. It's like, Dad, let me take a photo. My wife is like, no, I'm not taking your photo. So, I really need to work on that.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being on the show, Matt. That's all we got. And congratulations on the new album. And we hope that it does really well. It's the songs so far sound amazing, and we hope you can get out and tour on this thing sometime in the fall or late summer.
It's looking like October is potentially the beginning. I'm really excited. Thank you guys so much. Such an honor to be here, and I love chatting with you and my sunburned face. It's been great.
You look great. You're not nearly as red as you think you are. So if that is any if that is any help,
okay. I feel better.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Matt Kearney, his new album is out on May 21st.
Thanks guys.
Matt. And so that was Matt Kearney. New album January Flower is out May 21st. The singles, 2 singles are out now. Demi, I could tell when he sang that song, when you sang Pontiac, which you like that song, I could see you swaying back and forth. You're like already in concert mode. Like you want to be out there so hard.
I have my rave beads on, you know?
Yeah.
So we're October it is.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to do it for us, guys. As always, you can go to popdust.com for an archive of all our past shows. You can follow me on Instagram at Jordan Edwards Studio and Demi on Instagram at Demi_Ramos. Thanks to our guest, Matt Kearney, and we will see you next week.